confidence they pick a new leader. Yet its party policy, a PM promotes for the party president all control in terms of policy. There you go. Well, look, thank you for that email. Let's now have a look at matters north of the border. Nicola Sturgeon has been tossing her caber around with some Gaelic vigour this week. First off, a spat with J.K. Rowling, having a bit of a problem with a bill that would allow blokes to enter women's toilets and changing rooms without a proper gender dysmorphia diagnosis makes the author not a real feminist, apparently. Bonnie Prince Nicola is also confident of holding a new independence referendum next year. You can't knock the optimism, can you, of her? She detests the Tories, she admitted in an interview with the BBC, implying she'd much prefer a Labour government. So what do we think? If a Labour government relied on SNP votes, does that mean Indy Ref 2 is inevitable? Is an independent Scotland now inevitable? To discuss that, let's speak to Austin Sheridan, former SNP Glasgow City Councillor, and Ian Tuff, one half of legendary Scottish comedy duo the Krankies. Great to have both of you with me. Austin, great to see you again. Is independence now inevitable?
It's certainly highly likely with the way that the UK government have been conducting themselves. I mean, if you look at your last segment, we're debating whether Nicola Sturgeon's going to be facing her fifth Prime Minister since she became First Minister back in 2014. If we look at the policies and the U-turns that Liz Truss has participated in, it's pretty clear that they don't know what they're doing. Pretty clear we've got a zombie government at Westminster that can't call an election because they know they're going to lose it. It's just a pathetic state of affairs, and the people of Scotland will look at that and find the prospect of independence very much more attractive.
Well, Ian, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's now inevitable? We've just been debating whether there'll be a hung parliament in 2 years' time, and if Labour, being the largest party, rely on SNP votes, they will demand Indy Ref 2, which, under the current circumstances, looks like a win for Sturgeon.
Well, let's face it, nothing's inevitable. We've seen that the way the government's handling itself at the moment. However, I think eventually the Scottish people will see the light and realise that it would be a big mistake to go for it. I mean, look at the state of things in the world at the moment. We've got a madman over there in Russia talking they're going to bloody blow us up with atomic weapons, and she's talking about getting rid of all those and getting rid of any form of atomic power and rely on the blinking wind. But she did admit that we'd have to open some gas power stations because when the wind doesn't blow, we've no electricity. So I think eventually the people, the mass, will see it's not going to work. It's just crazy. So, no, I don't think it's inevitable. I think by the time it comes, she may go for a vote, she may break. I think this week the courts will say you're not allowed to do it. She may go over that. And as you say, next election, treat it as a referendum. But that won't stand. I think it's not a referendum.
Well, there you go. Interesting there. Reading between the lines, Austin, of what Ian's just had to say there, I don't think he fears a second referendum because he doesn't think the Scottish people would be foolish enough to vote for independence.
Well, it would seem that the Unionist parties fear a second referendum because if they believed that we couldn't win, I don't understand why they would be so determined to block the will of the Scottish people, and the will being that the Scottish Parliament elected the largest pro-independence majority of Parliament since its establishment in 1999. But then we look at the trends towards independence as well, and it's quite interesting what Ian's saying because it's just absolute nonsense that the trend for independence, support of independence, has only ever consistently grown. And even if you look at the Scottish Attitude Survey, which is like the gold standard of surveying opinions of people in Scotland, 52% in that survey support Scotland becoming an independent country, the highest that it's ever been. So yeah. I'm not entirely sure what trend pattern Ian's looking at, but it's certainly not any trend pattern.
Well, if you're going by polls, only 30% of the Scottish population agree that government has done a good job.
Well,
in fact,
I don't go by
they've done a dreadful job.
Austin, let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky. Ian.
Yeah, you can't take one poll and say, well, that's what, and ignore the other poll. They're not happy with the government. No, if you get independence, you've got to put the same people back. Yourself's got to go. You're no use. You can't run the country. It's in a bloody mess.
I don't go by polls, I go by election results, and consistently, since 2010, the SNP has won every single election in Scotland. The Scottish people elected a pro-independence majority parliament in 2021, a majority of MSPs that support a second referendum. That is the fact of the matter.
Yes, I agree with you there.
That's an election result.
But you can't say that the Scottish population totally agree with independence just because they voted for SNP. They had nobody else to vote for.
Ian, how do you see this panning out?
For a multi-party democracy. People had plenty of parties to vote for, and they chose to vote for a pro-independence majority parliament. That is a fact of the matter, not an opinion poll, but a fact.
Okay, Ian, can I just ask you whether you think perhaps it's worth calling Nicola Sturgeon's bluff and having a referendum in order to lance the boil? Because if you think it's such a bad idea, the idea of independence, why not give Scotland the vote? They say no, and that would end Nicola Sturgeon's career. What do you think, Ian? Lance the boil? Toss the caber?
Definitely. I would stand by my predictions that I think you would lose. Well, the last poll said you would. I think it was 58% to 40-something, wasn't it? The last one that was taken a few weeks ago.
Okay. Final word, Austin?
Mark, you're right. But I mean, if we're going to have this debate, people have voted to have a referendum, and that's exactly what the SNP have been saying all along. Is that if if they are so confident that Scotland doesn't want to be independent, then why are they so scared to go to the Scottish people with the question? Because the people of Scotland voted to have the question in 2021 in the Scottish Parliament.
Okay. First of all, if you're going to go to the people of Scotland, I think you need some decent policies to put to them. Like how you finance it, how are you going to power it, how are you going to get the hospital back to work, how are you going to build ships?
There you go. Two Scotsmen that love their country but disagree strongly about its future. My profound thanks to Austin Sheridan, former SNP Glasgow City Councillor, and comedy legend Ian Tuff, one half of the legendary Scottish comedy duo The Krankies. And Ian, send our love to Jeanette as well. Look forward to seeing you in the studio soon.
She's out at the moment doing a personal appearance as Nicola Sturgeon.
Nicely done. Someone's got to pay the bills. Great to have you on as well, Austin. Catch up soon. Let's bring my brilliant panel in, if we can. Lizzie Zita, Ali Miraj and Emma Burnell. So, Emma, what do we think? Is independence inevitable now? Do we just have to accept it?
I don't think it is inevitable at all. I think Ian is, and can I just say, it is fan-dubby-dozy to be on a show with Ian. I couldn't resist.
You look
I'm
starstruck.
Sorry. I was so starstruck. That's like my whole childhood. All I want to do is carry a bunch of cabbages around now.
And all I want is a woman dressed as a schoolboy sitting on my knee.
Well, all our dreams can come true.
Is a translator, because I got very little.
Well, I lived in Edinburgh for 4 years, so I got every word. I'll send you a fact sheet later.
Thank you.
But
Emma.
I think the honest truth is what the SNP really, really want is to keep the question of an independence referendum alive without ever actually being the dog that catches the car.
Because that's their leverage.
It's their leverage. It's what keeps their voters voting for them. They are failing Scotland a lot in terms of their delivery. They're failing on health, they're failing in education, they're failing on drug deaths. There are so many things that they should be talking about in Scotland, but as long as they can keep distracting people with this Westminster's telling you can't have a referendum, as long as that keeps working for them politically, then they don't have to answer any of those much more difficult questions. And that's not on. It's not fair for our Scottish people. I love Scotland. I spend a lot of time there, and it's not right that it's become this second-class democracy where all it matters is whether you have this constitutional question and not whether you're actually delivering for the people.
Yes, Ali, this is the issue, that Scots are worried about the pound in their pocket, about heating their homes this winter, not constitutional issues, especially ones that could weaken Scotland if they were to go it alone.
Well, certainly I think that the SNP government should be focusing on delivering for its people in the immediate term. But also more broadly, Mark, I think that the landing strip for Nicola Sturgeon is actually ebbing away. Her best solution, or her best scenario rather, would have been a minority Labour government where the Labour government would have been reliant on SNP votes in a confidence and supply agreement, and the price of that confidence and supply would have been a second referendum on the question of independence. At the moment, the Tories are doing so badly, we may end up with a majority Labour government, and they will not give a second referendum to the Scots. And also, the Labour Party is doing a lot better in polls now than it has done for years, polling 30% right now. The only question I would love to ask Nicola Sturgeon, there are two questions that everyone should ask the Nationalists. One, what currency are you going to have post-exit, right?
You go.
And two, are you going to put a border up at Berwick-upon-Tweed?
There you go. Now, there's two big questions. And how would the EU handle that conundrum if they joined the Eurozone?